Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Hog Hoops Report with Kevin McPherson. This week, it's been a huge week as all the Arkansas Razorbacks are officially on campus. And it's been huge. A lot of practices going on, a lot of players meeting with the coaches and the coaches meeting the players. A lot of things going on this week. They stopped by with the press conference with a couple of players, one new player and one former player for the current player that's coming back to the Razorbacks. And a lot of stuff is going on, Kevin. What's some things that you've seen happen this week that's pretty big for the Hawks?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's a lot going on, but technically they call them limited practices. They're limited to 4 hours a week, but Eric Musselman and his staff make the most of that time. They understand they've got to get a lot conveyed to their players, especially when you've got 11 newcomers out of 13 on scholarship. So they're making the most of that. Anthony Black, who helped Team USA win the gold in the FIBA Americas U18 event down in Mexico, he got on campus early in the week. I mean, a couple of days after winning that gold medal last Sunday. 2 days later, he's on campus. He practiced with the team for the first time on Thursday. But Eric Musselman had a press conference on Friday, and he kind of went through some stuff and everything I'd been hearing and tweeting about and wrote in the first practice report about a week ago that I put on hogbill.net. Everything I'm hearing is the size, the length, the athleticism, and the floor IQ. All of it is really kind of snowballed into this being what could be a very good defensive team. Eric Musselman talked about that. He says it's really hard to score against this group of players, especially at the rim. That's probably where Arkansas, as good as its defense has been in the last couple of years, we know last season making it to an Elite Eight, another national top 10 ranking, final ranking, like the previous year. This past year's team had basically a top 10 rated defense. So this early on, in just the first couple of weeks, to say that this team is tough to score on already tells you that the pieces are there for Arkansas not only to be really good at that floor again, and that's, if anything's been the identity of Eric Musselman teams at Arkansas, it's been defense. And for him to be saying some of these things early, it matches up with the feedback I was getting. But I'm going to talk about some of the guys that have stood out so far. Nick Smith Jr., Jordan Walsh, no surprises they're five-star guys. 1 day of practice, Anthony Black really caught Musselman's eye because of his understanding of the playbook. And some of the things Arkansas wants to do with multiple options. And then you look at Trevon Brazile, the 6'10", versatile, long, athletic sophomore that spent his freshman season at Missouri last year, played against Arkansas a couple of times. So those are some of the names already, but Devo Davis is doing a great job, I'm hearing, at veteran leadership as a junior, third-year guy. Really the guy that's been there in those trenches for back-to-back Elite Eights.
That's right.
And then you start talking about the Mitchell twins, Makai, who's maybe a little more skilled, Ricky Council, who Musselman bragged about in the press conference, and the fact that he really runs the floor hard and really puts forth a lot of effort, even just some of the drill work. So it's already starting to emerge maybe some of the names that you would think at this point might be competing for those top 7 or 8 spots. I just went through those names, but the defense has really been so far what's caught everybody's eye. I know that, Nick Smith Jr., Musselman talked about his leadership, how hard he plays. He talked about that leadership quality. When you have 11 newcomers, you're going to expect a guy like Devo Davis to provide that, but he won't be the only one. I think Nick Smith is one of those guys that's already out of the gates as a leader. I know in this past week, my understanding is he shot the ball well in practice. They chart those things. But there's just a lot of stuff going on right now when you're acclimating that many with limited practice. And that's why I think, and we're going to talk about this, I've mentioned this, I wrote about this back in early May, 6 weeks ago on Friday, and basically in concert with that press conference, the university formally announced that summer tour that's coming up for an exhibition tour, 4 games, Spain and Italy, CJ, in early August. And so they're going to get through these limited practices. They'll get to have 10 full practice sessions that they normally wouldn't get. They're allowed that by the NCAA before they take that trip. And then they get to play against other teams. And, they're going to have, like I said, 4 games between starting out in Spain, and they'll wrap it up in Italy. And I think the dates on that are the August 6th to the 16th. So it's going to be a busy, we're talking about how busy things are now. It gets even busier. And I think, again, because of 11 newcomers, CJ, it's a perfect opportunity. This is the right time. I think it's been about 8 years, six to 8 years since Arkansas last took one of these foreign tours. That was when Mike Anderson was coach. But this is perfect timing for a team figuring things out. Get on the court, play somebody other than yourselves in practice, figure out what's working. And I think that's where things are headed as we look ahead for this team, because we're going to have a lot more to talk about with these limited practices, but we're also going to be getting into, more in depth, not only what we think the rotations might be, but we're going to hear a lot more once they go on the road. And when they go on the road, it's overseas, so that's a big deal.
It starts with Nick Smith Jr. It seems like it's doing just that in the practice, and I'm glad Anthony Black has come right in and plugged on in and started this team up. And, man, I'm looking forward to this team going to Spain. The one thing that you touched on is camaraderie, Kevin. And, my goodness, Ricky Council already said he feels like this team is already close, but he feels like their foreign tour is going to pull them even closer together. And speaking of loading things back up like Muss has did this year, 11 new players coming in. Got guys like Leighton Blocker that I think came to the University of Arkansas. And my goodness, I seen that video. I think you retweeted, Kevin. That man has some hops, and he can get up as well.
Yeah, Leighton Blocker class of 2023, 6'2" point guard out of Little Rock. He's played at Sunrise Christian Academy in Wichita. Number 1 team most of the season last year on a national level. But he's ranked number 28 by ESPN, so a high-level 4-star knocking on that door, 5-star. We know he took a visit a couple of weeks ago, followed by Ron Holland immediately, the 5-star out of Texas, 6'8" forward out of Duncanville. Anthony Black's teammate at Duncanville High School last year. The spring and summer prior to this year, going back a year ago, was teammates on 17U Drive Nation with current 5-star Hog Jordan Walsh. So a lot of ties there. He had a great visit. So I wrote articles about both of those guys, getting their feedback. And I really think Arkansas is in great shape with both. Walsh followed up his visit to Arkansas and had a visit to Kentucky. It looks like he's also going to visit Texas. He's already been to UCLA before the Arkansas visit. And then with Leighton Blocker, he had a couple of visits in May, Kansas State and Maryland. Right after his Arkansas visit, he was to visit Kansas, and he canceled that. So keep an eye on that. He's supposed to announce his decision, Blocker is, on July 2nd, which is his birthday. That's right around the corner. I mean, we're just a couple of weeks out. And so he's going through a decision process right now. The fact that he canceled that Kansas visit eliminates the Jayhawks. But I think Arkansas is in great shape with both players. And Eric Musselman, when you look at the recruiting, right, the number 2 class in the country, arguably the top class when you count the portal transfers. But now they're getting used to pulling players from Arkansas and Texas in the region. And these guys are now, when you start talking about it, top 25-ish players, some of them top 5 when you look at Nick Smith and guys like Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, and that's certainly the case with Ron Holland, that 6'8" forward, who's very versatile, by the way, that just took that official visit. So we're keeping an eye on that. By the way, Arkansas coaches and Division I coaches could reach out to class of 2024 prospects for the first time on June 15th. So that was midweek. Arkansas reached out, by my count, at least the ones I know about, approaching 30 players, probably more than that. And they put out a few offers, including the number 1 player in the country, Cade Cunningham. But the local guys they reached out to, keep an eye on these guys. 2024 Little Rock Central wing, K-Honor Boateng, explosive player whose skills really coming along. He's at Team USA camp for the Under-17 World Cup. So he's going through that right now as we speak. But he's rated number 36 in the country, a high-level 4-star by 247 Sports. You've got Dallas Slim Thomas at a Little Rock Parkview, a 6'8" wing. Arkansas coaches also reached out to him midweek. He's rated number 27 according to 247 Sports. And then Landron Blocker, the 6'4" guard at Little Rock Christian, the younger brother of Leighton Blocker, another guy that can get up, man. These guys love to get to the rim, CJ. These Blocker guys, I'm telling you, man, they go to the rim with bad intentions. But you talk about 2024 out of the state of Arkansas, those 3 names are the main names to keep an eye on as Arkansas continues to recruit beyond 2023, because they got to continue to keep that ball rolling, looking ahead in the future.
I know all the Hog fans are looking forward to the future as well. We got these 11 new guys coming in, and the next year we got a couple more guys coming in. So the future is bright for the University of Arkansas. And speaking of, we talked about current Hogs. We talked about Hogs coming back to the University of Arkansas. We talked about future Hogs. Talk about former Hogs who are in the NBA. And speaking of NBA, won an NBA championship, a ring, not a wedding ring, an NBA championship. His first season in the NBA with the great Steph Curry, who has 4 rings. Talk about that first year. Moses Moody getting his first year in the NBA, coming out with the NBA championship, Kevin. Wow.
Yeah, let's look at his. Let's just go back. I covered that young man since 8th grade. I always talk about how I get on these Arkansas players early because that's where I really start forming my opinions about their trajectory. Always felt like he was a top 20 guy in his class. But look, as a freshman at Little Rock Parkview, he got heavy minutes on a team that had over 7 Division I players. Several of those were high majors. Had a key role in a team that got to the state championship game and lost to Little Rock Mills as a freshman. Okay, he's on the court at the end of that game with a ball in his hands as a high school freshman with all that talent. His sophomore season in Little Rock wins a 6A state title. Then he moves on to Montverde Academy, that really the top independent school out there when you look at titles. Was there for 2 years. Was on as a senior. Was on arguably the best high school team ever. They were undefeated. Average winning margin was around 40 points a game. So when you look at what he did at Arkansas, SEC Freshman of the Year, SEC Newcomer of the Year, honorable mention All-American, first team All-SEC, was probably a whisker away from being the league's Player of the Year behind Herb Jones at Alabama. But he led Arkansas in scoring, top 3 in the league, and then he becomes Arkansas's first one and done, program first. And you just said it. As a rookie, he goes in the lottery. As a rookie, he's on the court. Okay,
right.
In a season that Steph Curry breaks the all-time record for three-point shooting in the NBA. It's a season that Klay Thompson makes a dramatic return after 50-something games from being out for 2 years with various injuries. All right. So this was a dynasty in the making. 3 out of 5 titles. The last 2 years there was slippage. But you saw Moses Moody getting true rotation minutes. One of a few rookies this season, the regular season, to score 30 or more points in a game. He had a 20-point game. He helped this team. You go to the Western Conference Finals, he's getting rotation minutes against the Dallas Mavericks to move on to the finals. Now, he appeared in 4 of those 6 finals games. He was not in the rotation, but look, he's been not only a part of history because he won a title, but he's been on the court with great players. And when we go back now and we say that Moses Moody adds an NBA ring, a championship ring, go back to that Montverde Academy team. Cade Cunningham, the number 1 pick in the 2021 draft, just had an outstanding rookie season. Scotty Barnes went in the top 5 players in the draft. Lottery, just won NBA Rookie of the Year. Now you add Moses Moody in there winning a title and having a big hand in that, getting to that point. So, yeah, this is big time for Moses Moody. I just went through his career because I thought it was very important to go back and reflect on just how good he's been at every level, at every stop, at every age, and why I've always said this guy's 5 stars. And off the court, this young man's an old soul, very mature, smart, thoughtful, articulate. You couldn't pick a better person to represent Arkansas, and then at the NBA level. We know Bobby Portis has been carrying that torch. Moses Moody's got that kind of character. Isaiah Joe demonstrates that kind of character. Sometimes it's not just about what's on the court, it's also how these guys are off the court, CJ.
That is true. And you talked about every level of Moses Moody. My goodness, he's been a winner for some time now, but to do it his first season in the NBA was one of the greatest players to ever do it. I'm sure it's at the top of his list. One thing they can't take away from you is you are a champion. That's what Moses Moody is. All right, speaking of one more former Hog who could hear his name be called in the NBA Draft 2022 on June 23rd, Jalen Williams. What you been hearing about the former power forward Razorback?
Listen, Jalen Williams is going to get drafted. He's been moving up. You look at mock drafts, you have to take those with a grain of salt. But some of these mocks are actually pretty good because you know that a guy like Jonathan Giamone with ESPN Draft Express or Jonathan Wasserman with Bleacher Report, these guys have been around a while. They have connections to teams. They may not get the story exactly right all the time, but he has moved up into the early to mid-30s in the second round, whereas he's been mostly projected mid-second round to late second round, so somewhere in the mid-40s. So he's moved up in recent days on mock drafts. But I'm going to go off of what I'm hearing from NBA teams personally. I had an NBA team reach out to me early in the week last week, and I went through an extensive 30-minute discussion about Jalen's progression as a player since I've been covering him since 8th grade. And this team expressed to me they're looking at him with a late first-round pick possibility. So things can change. Their trades are going to happen. Priorities can change. Someone might drop in the draft that a team didn't think would be available. All kinds of stuff plays out. But the way I'm looking at this, and I've had a source telling me for a while, even before Jalen said he was staying in the draft, that he's got a guarantee that could be as good as somewhere in the late first round. So I do think, that's probably his range is going to be somewhere late first round to mid second. You know, with the popular scenario now being that he'll be an early 30s pick. So let's see where it shakes out. But I do think Jalen Williams is going to realize his dream of being drafted. And you know, if he does, and I expect he will, you go back every year. Moses Moody last year, one and done. Isaiah Joe the year before that, mid-second round pick, and then early second round pick in the 30s, Daniel Gafford the year before that. So Arkansas would have 4 former players 4 years in a row to be drafted in the NBA draft.
Well, that is huge. He has moved up in the last couple of weeks. That is huge and almost a guarantee at the end of the first round. That's something you love to hear if you're a Hog fan or if you're even Jalen Williams and his family. Kevin, it's always been good, man. I appreciate you. I know you're a busy man today. I'll let you get back to it.
Thank you, CJ. Always good to be with you.
No problem. We talked about that Eric Musselman press conference. You can also get that online and on our app. And you're going to hear more from Eric Musselman after the break.